So where were we? What were we? We were talking about the Ponzi scheme.
The Ponzi scheme, that's right. Yeah, just shopping. Yeah.
Shopping, yeah.
So look, that's kind of the issue is that we kind of have this green shopping or, buy a different way, which is all useful. But the bottom line is we all buy too much stuff. I mean, it's not like a moralising thing. We all do it. We all have our thing. Mine's hardware shops. I like to go to hardware shops. So I buy more tools. I'll be a better handyman around the house. It's just this kind of addiction that we have. And even those of us that think we're not very consumerist basically are, much more than we can afford to be. For a bunch of reasons, and that's not kind of a moralising or ethical issue to me. That's it's a quality of life issue. And so the bottom line is if we all kind of work towards spending less money, having less debt, having less stuff, we actually find our quality of life improves. And that's really significant because if we have to make this change by kind of force or by kind of moral imperative, we're not going to do it in time. But if we recognise we can kind of have a movement almost and say, hey, let's just buy 10% less stuff next year. So, for example, if we all bought 10% less stuff next year, that'd be 5 weeks less work we would need to do for money. Right? And that's a really significant quality of life improvement. And the reality is we could all have less stuff, and that's sort of part of the process. And that's part of the movement that has to face up to, I think, is that there is an issue here about our consumption, about consumerism across society. But again, not to take it as a kind of moralising issue, but to say, look, all of us just do a bit less. It would be good. And then, of course, they'll scream and say, you'll ruin the economy, Okay, well, let's have that conversation. So your kind of solution is that we should buy more stuff that we don't need with money we haven't got and destroy the planet. That's your strategy for society. I'm saying let's actually have a better quality of life. Let's have that kind of debate in society, and that's where I think we need to go.
And then we're going to have to consume more clean energy and energy efficiency stuff. So we're going to need to make stuff.
Yeah.
Because we have 7 billion people.
That's right. And that's right, we have 7 billion people and they're all going to want that stuff. And so we're kind of taking more than our share. And if we are going to want to have climate change addressed, we're going to have a lot of building to do, a lot of stuff to make. And we need those resources that we have got for that process. And that's another reason why this is quite an urgent kind of issue.
And so how does this message play in Australia, which is a consumerist?
Yeah, totally. Well, same as the US, basically. And our culture is very similar. And it plays pretty well, actually. There is this kind of, I don't want to overplay it, there is this sort of niche in society that's already saying, well, actually, it's not working for me anymore. I'm working really hard, I'm getting more into debt, and it's always for some other point tomorrow that never comes. And people are now consciously downshifting, as we call it. They're kind of recognising that if they can actually work a bit less, do work part-time, have less money, have less stuff, have less debt, have more time, have more holidays, have more time with their children, do the stuff they want to do for fun, their actually quality of life improves. And that's really, I think the critical thing is that people recognising that it's not working for them anymore and they need to think differently about it.
Now, Australia, like the US, Australia is very similar to the US in a lot of respects. You have a huge coal industry, and a huge mining industry, so and huge agricultural sector. So, obviously the coal industry must not be that thrilled about this. They want to sell coal to people.
Correct, and so they're fighting a very strong rearguard action. They're not denying climate change anymore. Interestingly, that sort of debate's over. So no one in Australia says climate science, I shouldn't say no one, but no serious company says the issue is not a real issue. They simply say we shouldn't do it first, we should do it later, etc.
Everyone's got to do it.
Although usual arguments as to why we shouldn't act first, kind of ignoring the fact that we are the highest per capita emitter in the world in some years. So it's like there is that resistance going on, but they recognise it's going to change. They're just going to try and make it change later if they can. But they are the same arguments. They're rent seeking. They're wanting compensation for anything that happens. All the usual arguments are being put forward, and that's where government's just got to be tougher and say, no, look, this was coming. You knew it was coming. It's not a surprise. It's been 30 years in the making. We're going to help you transition a bit, especially in terms of jobs. But bottom line is capitalism is about taking risk. You guys took a risk. You bought assets that are no longer worth as much because of climate change. So you're going to have to take a loss now. And that's how markets should work. We should recognise that people are going to lose money by having made bad decisions to invest in CO2 intensive assets, and we shouldn't be compensating them for that. We should be saying, welcome to the market. This is your market.
And so then we get to the question of beef, which Australians are also well known for. Obviously, the entire world, 7 billion, let alone the 9 billion, can't have the same diet that we do. And it just, we're already record high food prices, and the climate's just starting to get unstable and oil's just starting to peak. And so what do you tell people in that regard?
Well, it's hard to get people to give it up entirely. So what I say is just have less. Right? Just don't eat as much. See if you're going to have meat, then have meat as flavouring rather than as being the centre of the meal. And just try and reduce your consumption for your health, for the environment, and for your pocket. So it's all about the message of saying we're just a bit out of control. It's not that we're doing everything badly. Not everything we're doing is wrong. We're just doing too much of all of it. It's not like we're going to stop shopping. Just shop less. If we're going to buy stuff, just buy less stuff. If you're going to eat meat, eat less meat. Because there is simply not enough room on a planet for an economy that's twice as big as a planet. And that's where we're going. And meat clearly meat and dairy are going to be some very, very significant issues being faced there. And as you say, we're not going to get 7 billion people with that diet happening. I mean, the food production will just, the prices will just go out of control completely. And that will be partly dealt with by prices. But the problem there is that it's the people in poor countries who are going to be affected most dramatically and most suddenly. So when wheat prices double, I think in the US, the loaf of bread goes up by 10 cents. If you're living on that wheat, then suddenly your whole standard of living has gone, twice the cost, and that's not okay. So we're going to see political unrest as a result of that, and of course, political unrest leads to insecurity, leads to oil prices going up. Oil is a major input into food prices, so that sort of cycle starts, and that's where we can get ourselves into a spot of bother.
Now, you're optimistic. Mm-hmm. Some people would say that if you looked at all of human history, you don't see a lot of examples of people kind of proactively changing before the big disaster. So why are you optimistic?
Yeah, I'm optimistic. It's a good question. I'm optimistic because we're not good at responding proactively before the disaster. We're very good at responding when the disaster happens. And now that's one big thing we know from history. But other things have changed. One is we have a lot more science than we used to have. So the people on Easter Island, which famously collapsed, didn't have Earth ecosystem science warning them of it. So it was kind of a bit of a surprise. We know it's coming. So when the crisis hits, we'll end denial, and then we'll know what this means if we don't act. And the internet connection, so people can mobilise globally, the fact that we know what's going on everywhere instantaneously, all those things are significant shifts in terms of our ability to change. And that's why I'm kind of optimistic, is that when we get focused, we're really good. Humans are brilliant. I mean, we're kind of, as I say in the book, slow but not stupid. We are actually brilliant when we get going and focus on something. And we can certainly achieve this. We've just got to make the decision to do it. And what history says is that decision will come when the crisis is kind of in our face. And the kind of bad news, good news, is the crisis, certainly in Australia, it's in our face. And therefore we're going to respond.
And you think this is going to happen like this decade?
This decade, yeah. I guess that's where I differ from a lot of people. People are still saying, hey, it's 20, 30 years away. I've been working this for 35 years. We said it was 20 years away 30 years ago. Right? It's sort of been coming for a long time. And I think now's the time. And I think that the climate system, everything, we all know this, is accelerating faster than it was supposed to. The feedbacks are happening faster than they were supposed to. They're worse than we were expected. All those things are accelerating. And that's just the beginning. And that's the kind of the key point. So I think it is this decade. And I think, I started in 2008 when you and I first started talking about the Ponzi scheme. That's when it started. Food prices, oil prices spiking, It crashes the economy, it goes down, we get it going again, we hit the limits, we crash down again. We're going to go bang, kabang, kabang a few more times until our head hurts, and we'll recognise that we've actually gone too far and we have to change.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We've had these two big food shocks just in the last 3 years, and we're just at the beginning of this.
Yeah, totally.
And we've got so it's a lot more to come. Yeah. Well, I thank you for your time and wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you.